My fiancé said, "If we're destiny, I'll find my way back." I said, "Don't." I handed her the apartment key, canceled the caterer, and watched her smile like I'd be waiting by Christmas. By spring, I was dating someone else, her mother was calling me heartless, and destiny suddenly needed my address. Original post: I'm Owen, 34, male. My fiancée, Marissa, is 31. We were together 4 years, engaged for 11 months, living in Denver, Colorado, in a condo I bought before we met. I worked as a logistics manager for an outdoor gear company. Marissa did social media for a boutique real estate firm and believed every inconvenience in life was either a sign, a lesson, or the universe trying to tell her something dramatic. At first I thought that part of her was kind of charming. You know, the little stuff. She'd say it was destiny that we met because it rained the night of our first date and she loved rain. It was fate that our dog at the shelter leaned toward both of us. It was cosmic timing that we got engaged on a weekend when the leaves happened to turn gold in the mountains. Harmless. A little much sometimes, but harmless. Then, somewhere around wedding planning, destiny turned into a tool. If she forgot to do something, maybe the universe was slowing her down for a reason. If she changed her mind about the venue after we paid a deposit, maybe that wasn't flaky, maybe it was alignment. If I asked whether she was still inviting the ex-coworker she used to flirt with, suddenly, I was resisting the flow of life. The wedding was supposed to be in May at a venue outside Boulder. We'd already paid the non-refundable hold fee, put money down on a caterer, and ordered sample invitations. I had spent a full Sunday afternoon comparing transportation packages while she sat on the couch scrolling reels about soul ties and divine timing. That should have warned me. The actual breakup happened on a Thursday night in late October at a small Italian restaurant in Cherry Creek. We'd gone there because she said we needed a reset dinner. That phrase should have warned me too. She spent half the meal quiet, pushing pasta around her plate. Then she looked at me with that soft, serious face people make when they want credit for the hurt they're about to cause. She said, "I think we rushed this." I asked whether she meant the wedding date. She said no, us, just like that. 4 years reduced to a mood. I didn't say much. I just sat there and let her keep talking because once people decide to become the main character in their own disaster, they usually can't help narrating it. She said she loved me, but lately everything felt too decided, too locked in, too real. She said maybe we had forced the timeline because it looked right on paper. She said sometimes people need space to know whether love is actually love or just comfort. Then she gave me the line I will apparently remember until I die. "If we're destiny, I'll find my way back." She said it like it was wise, like it was noble, like she was handing us over to something bigger instead of just asking me to hold still while she went out and tested the market. I looked at her for maybe 2 seconds and said, "Don't." She blinked. I don't think she expected a direct answer. Certainly not that one. "What do you mean, don't?" she asked. "I mean, don't come back to see whether I'm still here." She laughed once lightly like I was being dramatic. "Owen, that's not what I'm saying." It was exactly what she was saying. She just wanted prettier language around it. I asked whether there was someone else. She said no, not exactly. That "not exactly" told me enough. Maybe nobody official. Probably somebody she had already imagined herself with. Somebody who made her wonder whether fate was trying to upgrade her life. So I put my card on the table, paid the bill, and stood up. She said, "Wait, that's it." I said, "You said you need space. Take all of it." Then I left. I drove home calmer than I should have been. That's how I knew I was done. If you still want to save it, your hands shake. Mine didn't. Marissa got back to the condo about 40 minutes later. I was already in the guest room pulling 2 suitcases out of the closet. She walked in, saw them, and said, "Owen, stop. You're acting like I cheated." "No," I said. "I'm acting like you just ended our engagement and expect me to sit in storage until you feel spiritual again." She followed me from room to room talking in circles. "I'm overwhelmed. I need clarity." This is why I said space. You make everything final too fast. It's not over if it's meant to be. That last sentence almost made me laugh. I asked one question. "Are you leaving because you truly want out or because you expect me to wait while you decide?" She didn't answer. There are answers inside silence too. So I opened her side of the closet and started folding. Dresses first, sweaters, boots, her makeup cases from the bathroom, the stack of wedding magazines she pretended to read, the framed engagement photo from the bookshelf. I set everything by the front door in neat rows. She cried then. Real tears, but not because she was losing me, because consequences had shown up faster than expected. Around 1015, she called her friend Jenna and asked if she could stay there a few nights. A few nights. Like this was just weather passing through. While she packed, I called the venue and froze the final balance. Their office was closed, so I left a voicemail and followed it with an email. Then, I emailed the caterer, then the florist, then the photographer. By midnight, I'd stopped nearly $9,600 in future payments. We still lost the $1,750 venue hold fee and $600 on invitation design, but it could have been much worse. Marissa came downstairs in leggings and one of my old hoodies carrying an overnight bag and the engagement ring box. She set it on the counter very carefully, like she was placing a bomb that she still expected me to defuse. I didn't touch it. She said, "I thought you knew me better than this." I said I did. That's why I'm not negotiating. She stood there waiting for a speech, or a crack, or some late burst of devotion that would prove she mattered enough to bend me. When it didn't come, she picked up her tote, grabbed the bag and headed for the door. Then, right before leaving, she turned around and said, "When you calm down, you'll understand this wasn't goodbye." It was a test of whether what we have is real. And that was the moment I felt the last piece fall into place. I said, "Love is not a test you leave someone to grade alone." She left. At 12:08 a.m. she texted me from Jenna's driveway. "I never wanted to hurt you. I just need to listen to my instincts," I replied once. Then listen to them somewhere else. That night I changed the garage code, removed her fingerprint from the front lock, moved the ring box into my safe, and sat in the kitchen with a beer I didn't even want. The condo was quiet, not peaceful yet, just quiet. But under the anger and embarrassment was something I hadn't felt in months: clarity. By noon the next day I told my mother the wedding was off, called my friend Miles to help me move the larger boxes into storage, and asked my building manager to flag Marissa at the front desk if she tried to come in without me approving it. Since the condo was mine and her name wasn't on anything, that part was easy. By evening the text started. "I love you. I just need time. You're punishing me for being honest. You're making this uglier than it has to be. Please don't tell people yet. My mom thinks I'm staying with Jenna because we had a fight." That one was especially bold. She wanted time to rewrite the story before anybody compared notes. I didn't respond. Saturday morning she sent, "I know you still feel this too." I looked at the message for maybe 5 seconds and realized something simple. I didn't. Update 1: It's been just over 2 months, and apparently destiny looks a lot like harassment when it doesn't get the ending it expected. Marissa did not come back dramatically right away. First she tried distance with a little mystery, which I'm sure she thought would make me miss her. She posted vague stories about timing, transformation, becoming who you were always meant to be. There were rooftop bars, weekend trips to Scottsdale, one very intentional photo of a man's hand holding a drink next to hers, and enough captions about freedom to make it obvious she wanted me watching. I wasn't. Mutual friends were, though, and people love forwarding theater. Then around Christmas, the tone changed. The trip photos stopped. The quotes got sadder. Suddenly, everything was about losing what was written for you because you were too stubborn to see the signs. Apparently, the universe had become a lot less exciting once actual bills and regular Tuesdays showed up. That's when the flying monkeys started. First, Jenna texted me from a new number saying Marissa had made a mistake, but was finally ready to have an adult conversation. Then her cousin Tori messaged me on LinkedIn, which I found both irritating and creative, saying she had a feeling I'd regret missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture, apparently, was that Marissa had needed to leave me to discover I was the one. I ignored both. Then Marissa started showing up in places she had no business being. My coffee shop in Rhino, The grocery store near my building. A used bookstore in Capitol Hill she once mocked for smelling like dust and old people. Every time, same act. Surprise, soft smile, tiny laugh. Wow, what are the odds? Not high unless someone is manufacturing them. By then my life had moved. Not dramatically, just quietly, in healthy directions. I joined a Saturday climbing group. I started sleeping better. In January, I got promoted to senior logistics lead, which came with a raise big enough to make the canceled wedding deposits sting a lot less. My mother mailed me a card that just said, "Better a lost venue fee than a lost decade." That helped, and there was Avery. I met her through the climbing group. She was 30, an ER nurse at a hospital in Aurora, funny without trying, and one of those people who actually answers direct questions with direct answers. We got coffee after a climb, then tacos the week after, then dinner. Nothing rushed, nothing hidden, just easy. I hadn't posted her anywhere. I hadn't told many people. But apparently Denver is a small enough city if the wrong person spends enough time looking. 3 nights ago I got home from work and saw Marissa sitting on the floor outside my condo door wearing my old University of Colorado hoodie and holding the framed photo from our engagement shoot in Estes Park. She had her knees pulled up and looked like a commercial for regret. I stopped about 10 feet away and just stared. She stood up too fast, like she'd been rehearsing the moment. "Owen." Finally. "What are you doing here?" I asked. She held up the photo. "I think we both know this was never supposed to end like this. I said the desk downstairs should never have let you up." She said she'd followed a resident in. Good. Very honest. Growth. Then she launched into it. She said she had taken the space she needed. She said dating other people had only clarified what we had. She said every path kept leading her back to me. She said maybe pain had been part of the design because some people only understand love once they almost lose it. That last line must have sounded amazing in her head. I said, "Did you really come here to tell me you had to sample alternatives before destiny confirmed me?" Her eyes filled instantly. "No, Owen, that's not fair. It was perfectly fair." Then I told her the one thing I hadn't planned to say yet. "I'm seeing someone." The effect was immediate. Like air leaving a room, she stared at me and said, "You moved on already, already." That word told on her more than anything else. She thought I should still be preserved exactly where she left me. I said, "Marissa, you left in October." She said, "Because I thought you'd fight for us." There it was. The whole scam in one sentence. I pulled out my phone and texted building security while she cried and said she had come home because she finally knew what was meant for her. I said, "This is not your home anymore." Security came up within minutes. She tried one last line on the way to the elevator. "You're choosing pride over destiny." I said no. "I'm choosing peace over a woman who treats me like a waiting room." She left the photo frame in the hall. I threw it away. Update: 2 things got much worse after Marissa learned I was actually moving on instead of simply healing in a way that left me available to her. The next morning she sent flowers to my office. Not roses, white lilies, because of course she chose something that looked like a funeral arrangement with a card attached that said, "For the man I was always meant to come back to." Love finds its way. My receptionist looked uncomfortable handing them over. I took a picture, emailed it to myself, and asked building security to keep the card in their incident log. Then, I had the arrangement donated to the lobby desk of a nearby rehab center because I didn't want death flowers in my office. An hour later, Marissa emailed me from a new address. Not asking, declaring, "You don't have to pretend with me. I know you still feel this too." I forwarded that one to an attorney named Rachel that a friend had recommended after the condo incident. Rachel told me something useful within 10 minutes of reading the timeline. She said, "People like this hear silence as an opening unless someone formal closes the door." So she drafted a cease and desist that same afternoon. No direct contact, no gifts, no workplace visits, no appearances at my home, all future communication through counsel only. Marissa ignored it almost immediately. First she contacted my mother. Now, my mother is not the person you call if you need support for a self-centered fantasy. She is a retired school principal from Fort Collins who can reduce a grown adult to reconsidering their life in under 90 seconds. Marissa apparently told her that I was spiraling, dating too fast, and making permanent decisions from a place of hurt. She also implied that Avery had been in the picture before the engagement ended, which was a bold lie considering I didn't even meet Avery until nearly 2 months later. My mother called me after and said I handled it. I asked what that meant. She said, I told her Destiny would not need to trespass. I loved that so much I wrote it down. Then came the fake emergency. At 11:47 p.m. Sunday, Marissa texted from another new number saying she'd been in a car accident near Lakewood and didn't know who else to call. There was blood, she said. She was scared. She needed me. That kind of message is designed to bypass reason. Except by then, Rachel had already warned me something like that might happen. So instead of calling Marissa, I called Jenna. Jenna answered on the second ring, sounding half asleep. I said, Marissa texted me saying she was in an accident. If that's true, you should go. If it isn't, tell her this number is also blocked. Long pause. Then Jenna said she's with me, so there we were. No accident, no blood, just a wine night and a last attempt at emotional burglary. Rachel loved that one. By Tuesday, she had enough for a police report, repeated unwanted contact, false emergency, workplace gift delivery, and the condo appearance after formal notice. The officer I spoke to was polite, took copies of everything, and said documentation mattered more than drama. Good. I had plenty of documentation and no interest in drama. Marissa, unfortunately, remained committed to bringing it. Avery and I had dinner reservations Friday night at a place in Loudoun. Nothing fancy. Just burgers and whiskey and a booth by the window. We were maybe 15 minutes into appetizers when Avery's expression changed slightly and she looked past my shoulder. I didn't need to turn around to know. Marissa was standing at the end of the table in the navy dress she wore to my company holiday party 2 years ago. Hair perfect, makeup perfect, smile absolutely feral. So this is her, she said. Avery stayed calm. One of the many reasons I liked her. I said, Marissa, leave. She ignored me and looked at Avery. Did he tell you he was engaged? Did he tell you he threw away the love of his life because he was angry I believed in fate? Avery said, I think you should go. Marissa laughed, sharp and breathless. Of course, the replacement gets the reasonable voice. I stood up and signaled the manager immediately. Marissa stepped closer. Owen, look at me. You know this is wrong. We were supposed to get married. You don't just replace destiny with convenience. That line got attention from 3 nearby tables. The manager told her to leave. She grabbed the red wine off an empty 2-top beside us and dumped it across the edge of our table. Some of it hit Avery's sleeve. Some of it splashed my jacket. Glass didn't shatter, but it hit hard enough to make the whole restaurant go quiet. Then she pointed at Avery and said, You are living in my life. Police came. The manager had security footage. Avery gave a statement. I gave one too. Marissa got a criminal trespass warning on the spot, and Rachel filed for an emergency protective order the next morning using the flowers, the false accident text, the condo encounter, the office email, the restaurant report, and every blocked number attempt in between. Marissa emailed Rachel that she only wanted closure. Apparently closure now traveled with wine. Final update court was this morning, and I have to say, reality looks beautiful when it's bound into a tabbed exhibit packet. Rachel came prepared like she was presenting a graduate thesis on delusion. She had screenshots, timestamps, the flower card, building incident logs, the cease and desist, Jenna's text confirming Marissa had lied about the accident, the police report from the restaurant, and stills from the security camera showing Marissa standing over our table with the wine bottle in her hand. Marissa arrived in a beige sweater set and low ponytail, which I guess was meant to signal humility. Her attorney went with the predictable approach. My client is emotional. She is grieving a broken engagement. She simply wants to communicate with the man she planned to marry. Rachel answered, grief does not excuse stalking, false emergency claims, workplace contact, or trespass. Then she walked the judge through the timeline. October, engagement ended. December, indirect outreach through family and friends. January, staged run-ins. February, appearance outside my condo. March, office flowers, false accident, repeated new number contact, public confrontation, wine incident. The judge read more than I expected, especially the messages. One of them said, "I can see your balcony light on. I know you're home. Stop fighting what this is." Another said, "The universe keeps returning me to you. Why are you making me act like this?" That one did her absolutely no favors. Her attorney kept trying to wrap everything in romance. Misguided love, emotional confusion, inability to let go. Rachel kept unwrapping it back into facts, repeated contact after notice. False emergency. Workplace intrusion, public confrontation, property access, fear of escalation. Then the judge asked Marissa directly whether she had been instructed in writing not to contact me. She said yes, but she believed our story was bigger than a letter. The judge actually paused before responding. Then he said, "Destiny is not a legal defense." I will probably hear that line in my head for years, and I'm okay with that. He granted the protective order for 2 years. No contact. No calls, texts, emails, gifts, messages through friends or family. No approaching my condo, workplace, or any place she knew I regularly attended, including the climbing gym Rachel specifically added after the staged encounters. If she violated it, she would be arrested. After the hearing, Marissa cried in the hallway while her mother stood next to her looking exhausted instead of sympathetic. Her mother caught my eye for a second and gave me the smallest nod, not approval exactly. More like acknowledgement that she had finally run out of ways to explain her daughter to herself. That was enough. As for the rest, life kept doing what stable life does. It moved forward. My legal bill ended up at $48.50, which was annoying but still cheaper than marrying somebody who thought emotional chaos counted as spiritual depth. We lost the $1750 venue hold, the $600 invitation design fee, and about $300 in various cancellation leftovers. But I sold the custom welcome sign frame, got partial refunds on a few smaller deposits, and honestly considered the whole thing tuition for a lesson I needed early. Marissa, from what I hear, ended up leaving her job about a month after the restaurant incident. I don't know whether she quit, or whether the office got tired of explaining why a woman in real estate marketing had a public paper trail involving trespass and wine. Either way, she's now back living with her mother in Littleton and posting long captions about sacred separation, karmic cycles, and surviving men who fear deep love. You really can do anything online with enough soft lighting. Avery and I are still together. Slowly, normally, peacefully. That may sound boring to some people. Good, boring is underrated. Boring means nobody is manufacturing crises to prove they matter. Boring means you don't have to check whether the person you love is secretly keeping one foot out the door while calling it spiritual growth. Boring means dinner is dinner, not a prelude to a test. Last week Avery came over, stood in my kitchen, and asked if I'd finally thrown away the leftover wedding sample box from the pantry. I had. She smiled and said, "Good. No ghosts." And that's really the point. Here's what I learned. Destiny is not someone leaving you to see whether you'll stay faithful to their uncertainty. It's not a romantic loop where one person gets to wander and the other person gets rewarded for waiting. That isn't fate. That's entitlement in prettier language. Real love does not require auditions. Real commitment does not need a backup plan. And if someone tells you they need to walk away to find out whether you matter, believe the part where they walked away. I didn't lose my destiny. I lost a woman who wanted freedom without consequence and a return policy on my loyalty. If you've ever had someone treat love like a test, or if you think I handled this right or wrong, comment below and let me know. Subscribe, like, and share so more people can find the channel, and tell me whether you've faced something similar or what your opinion is.